Someone once said that those who survive are not the strongest or the smartest. As a young man stands precariously on a crumbling cliff edge, this adage comes to mind. The true survivors in this world are those who can adapt to change. With a sudden lurch, the ground gives way, and the young man plummets into the chasm below. But this is no ordinary fall. With a gleam in his eyes, the boy expertly uses grappling hooks to swing down the treacherous cliff face, navigating the descent with practiced ease. He lands against the rock wall with a powerful crash, using his pickaxe to strike it. Panting, he inspects his work. He confirms his finding, a layer of meteoric coal. His colleague Gordon pulls him back to safety, ecstatic that they've finally discovered a vein. Gordon congratulates Kanata, checking if he has any injuries. The other miners praise Kanata, amazed he blasted through a spot no one else could. Kanata calmly takes a drink, explaining that he simply applied his knowledge of gravity, a concept he read about in a book. Gordon can't believe it, remarking that normal people don't bungee jump from there. This is the Grypton coal mine, where the special fossil fuel meteoric coal is mined, and the miners stare in awe at the newly discovered vein. This special fossil fuel boasts a combustion rate that far surpasses regular coal. Its discovery sparked an explosive industrial revolution, leading to the creation of steam-powered cities across the country. Because it can only be mined in a few select sites, it is more expensive than gold. At the management office, the foreman hands out the month's pay. While the other miners celebrate their fortune, dreaming of meat and women, Kanata remains subdued. The foreman informs Kanata that his share has been withheld, as always. Later that night, as the celebration continues, Gordon finds Kanata sitting alone outside. Gordon laughingly asks if Kanata will join the drinking party. Kanata reminds Gordon that he's only 16. A woman then propositions him, suggesting herself if alcohol is not an option. He shyly states he's not interested. Another miner begins to tease him relentlessly. Kanata wonders why everyone spends their earnings on fleeting pleasures, thinking they should buy books instead. Gordon, taking a swig from a bottle, explains that books are only good as hard pillows and men can only spend money on romance and pleasure. He reminds Kanata that they live in the death mine, constantly risking their lives, so these moments of indulgence are what they work for. Kanata acknowledges that it's not his place to judge how others live, but he is determined to work hard and leave this place. The other miners gossip about him, wondering what he is on about. They wonder what keeps such a talented kid in the death mine. Gordon watches him walk away, knowing better than anyone that it's complicated. Kanata thinks about the things holding him here, things he can't escape. His mind flashes back 10 years. A younger Gordon approaches a small, crying boy. Gordon asks what a kid is doing in the death mine. Through tears, the boy introduces himself as Kanata Icefort, explaining he's there to work. Gordon correctly guesses it's Kanata's first day. He gets straight to the point, telling the boy he'll escort him out while he still can. He warns that the meteoric coal emits toxic light and dust, and in his current state, Kanata would be at death's door by next week. Gordon explains that's why the place is called the Death Mine, and that gloves, a gas mask and goggles are essential for entry. He asks why Kanata came here, suggesting that sweeping chimneys in town would be 100 times better. Sobbing, Kanata reveals that his parents sold him, and he was told to work here until he dies to repay a debt. Hearing this, Gordon pauses. He then takes off his own protective gear. He drops it on the ground and tells the startled boy that around here, lost items belong to whoever finds them. Gordon walks away, leaving the gear for the young, stunned Kanata. The boy stares at the gifted equipment. He grips it tightly, tears streaming down his face. In the present, Kanata reflects that without Gordon, he would have died long ago. Gordon has taken care of everything for Kanata, food, clothes and shelter, while all the money Kanata earns goes to paying off the debt. Gordon even gave him pens and books. Kanata feels he can't keep being a burden and must get out of the death mine as soon as possible. As Kanata studies, Gordon sleeps peacefully nearby. A bright light and a shout wake him. At the mess hall, chatter fills the air about another major accident at the new dig site, with rumors that nearly 50 people died. Gordon comments to Kanata that new dig sites are always the most dangerous, as you never know what's buried there. Kanata adds that they could be filled with poisonous gas or have unsuitable temperatures. Gordon agrees that the better pay isn't worth dying for. Another miner leans in, adding that he's heard strange rumors about the vengeful spirits of the death mine. Kanata inquires about them, and the miner admits no one's actually seen them. The miner explains that the deaths aren't accidents but curses from the vengeful spirits of those who died in the mine. Kanata finds it interesting, concluding this is how supernatural phenomena become urban legends, much to Gordon's amusement. Gordon gets up and announces he's heading to town for supplies tomorrow morning, inviting Kanata to join. Kanata asks if Gordon wants him to come. After some prodding, Kanata reluctantly agrees to come along just in case. The two arrive by train in the steam-engine city of Pembroke. Thanks to its famous Meteoria coal, it's a city where steam-powered technology has advanced remarkably. Kanata is amazed by the latest moving walkway, something he's only read about in books. Gordon notes how everything is steam-powered these days. Kanata then excitedly spots a bookstore. He marvels at the automatic doors. Upon entering, he is awestruck by the sheer volume of books. While engrossed, Kanata bumps into a wealthy couple. The man angrily grabs him, demanding an apology. Gordon quickly steps in, bowing and apologizing on their behalf. The man and his companion look at them with disdain, commenting on their ragged appearance and wondering if the store lets poor people in. The couple laughs, finding it ridiculous that literacy could save them from their squalor. As they leave, Gordon mutters about the arrogance of rich people. Kanata stands silently, his hands clenched in anger. Kanata grits his teeth, determined to show them. Gordon pats his shoulder reassuringly. Their attention is drawn by a commotion as a crowd gathers, buzzing with excitement over the arrival of someone from MRDO. The crowd cheers as the MRDO members appear. A bystander asks Gordon if he's never heard of them. He explains that MRDO is the Meteoria Research and Development Organization, a national institute that studies the mysterious Meteoria coal and manages the mines. Kanata watches transfixed as the group passes by. Among the MRDO members, a young woman with flowing hair catches Kanata's eye, and he is instantly captivated by her radiant smile. He's starstruck, realizing she must be a national researcher. He thinks she must be some kind of prodigy, as MRDO is famous for only letting in the elite. Gordon remarks that it's a world of fancy folks they'll never be part of. They watch the group purchase expensive equipment they could never afford. Seeing Kanata's dazed expression, Gordon tells him it's time to go home. Kanata is still lost in thought, thinking the girl looks like an angel from an illustration book. Gordon tries to get his attention, asking what's wrong with him. He has to shake Kanata to snap him out of it. Flustered, Kanata tells Gordon he feels strange and wonders what the feeling is. Gordon grins, finally understanding. He grabs Kanata and teases him for his cluelessness. Gordon tells him he has all this weird knowledge, but is clueless about important stuff, while Kanata thinks he might have some kind of illness and resolves to look it up. Back at the mine, the foreman rallies the workers, announcing that they're finally entering the new, dangerous dig site in the western zone. The crowd cheers, ready to stay sharp. Gordon notes grimly that the day has finally come. Kanata adjusts his goggles, his expression hardening with resolve. Gordon encourages Kanata as the excavation begins. Deep in the Grypton coal mine, a diverse array of hazardous substances have accumulated over time. The miners must navigate these dangers like sudden gas leaks. With a bit of luck and avoiding those hazards, there's a chance to discover a vein. The miners are stunned to find a cavern rich with Meteoria coal. They can't believe their luck, exclaiming that it's buried so close to the surface. While the others celebrate, Kanata senses something is amiss. Kanata tells Gordon that something feels off. The foreman urges everyone to start mining quickly. Suddenly, the ground begins to rumble. Gordon realizes it can't be happening. As the ground collapses, he yells for everyone to run for their lives, warning Kanata to watch out. As the cavern crumbles around them, a massive, reptilian eye glares out from the darkness. Kanata stares in horror at the creature emerging from the rubble. The massive, tooth-filled maw of a monster lunges towards Kanata. Just as it's about to strike, Gordon snatches him out of harm's way. Gordon pulls Kanata back to safety. A horrifying, tentacled creature covered in eyes emerges from the debris as the miners look on in terror. Gordon grabs Kanata, a dreadful realization dawning on him. The creature's tentacles lash out, ensnaring Gordon. Kanata understands now, the vengeful spirits that haunt these new dig sites were this monster all along. He screams Gordon's name in terror as his friend is captured. Without a moment's hesitation, Kanata dashes towards the monster. He leaps onto its writhing tentacles. He stabs at its flesh in a desperate attempt to free Gordon. His attacks barely scratch the creature's tough hide. He wonders what this nightmare is. Gordon yells for Kanata, but Kanata shouts back that it's fine. Kanata looks on in confusion and horror. Trapped in the monster's grip, Gordon yells at Kanata that he must live. He throws the gear he once gave Kanata towards him as the creature pulls him away. He is pulled into the darkness. Memories of Gordon's kindness flash through Kanata's mind as he screams that he still hasn't been able to repay him for anything. Fueled by desperation, he vows that he won't let someone like Gordon die and dashes after the monster. As the monster tries to escape with Gordon, Kanata realizes the situation is bad. He desperately tries to think of what to do. He remembers something from a book. He recalls that gravity can convert height into energy, and seeing a massive boulder perched above gets an idea. In primitive times, hurling stones and causing rockfalls were tactics governed by natural principles. The essence of this strategy was achieving the greatest effect with the least exertion. Putting his knowledge into practice, Kanata triggers a rock slide, crushing the monster beneath a massive boulder. Kanata rushes to a wounded Gordon. The rock slide continues. He worries that it's going to catch them. Suddenly, a voice from above thanks Kanata for keeping the monster busy. A figure descends from above, unleashing a powerful and precise attack that completely obliterates the weakened monster in a chaotic explosion of rock and monster parts. The mysterious attacker moves with blinding speed, using advanced weaponry to dispatch the remaining pieces of the creature. The stranger Arya approaches. Kanata, tending to Gordon, is stunned that the monster was defeated in a single blow. He asks if Kanata was the one who wounded the creature. He demands to know what Kanata did and how he pulled it off. Kanata screams that he acted because someone important to him was about to be taken away, so he chased after it and pushed a boulder on it. Hearing this, Arya bursts into laughter. He finds the explanation utterly hilarious. Arya notes that most people would run or freeze up seeing a monster like that for the first time. He remarks that Kanata must be a special kind of crazy to face it head-on, admitting it's the best laugh he's had in a while. Just then, he is called away as the medic team arrives. As Kanata tends to Gordon, Arya departs. Later, while traveling, Arya receives a report. He listens to the report. The report is about the civilian who faced the Meteorian bare-handed, noting his motive was to rescue his colleague. The report continues, stating that the boy managed to severely wound the Meteorian with surprisingly quick and accurate judgment for a stationed worker. The girl from the bookstore is amazed. Another colleague dismisses it as absurd luck. Arya, however, is intrigued. He asks for the boy's name. A week later, at the coal mine management office, the miners are ordered to forget everything they saw. They receive a stern warning that leaking information will lead to elimination. The official story is that it was a string of lucky coincidences. As they leave, Gordon, now bandaged, calls out to Kanata. He has one more thing for him, a letter from MRDO. The miners are shocked that the letter is from MRDO. Kanata opens it to find a letter of appreciation addressed to Kanata Icefort, recognizing his bravery in saving a civilian at great risk to himself. In light of this, MRDO is presenting him with a special offer for provisional entry into their ranks. The onlookers are completely stunned. The foreman declares that Kanata's debt is cleared and orders him to pack up and leave. Kanata stands in stunned silence, unable to process the sudden turn of events. Gordon, tears in his eyes, emotionally tells Kanata to go. For it is those who survive and adapt to change who are the true survivors in this world. In his office, Arya Crawford muses that today is the day the mining boy arrives at MRDO. He recalls his interrogation of Kanata a week prior, questioning why he would drop a boulder to protect someone important. Arya had asked if the thought of hitting his friend crossed his mind. Kanata admitted it had, but that he had calculated the best possible trajectory to avoid it. Back in the present, Arya chuckles at the boy's audacity and instructs his subordinate, Elliot, to keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, Kanata Icefort arrives at the imposing headquarters of the Meteoria Research Development Organization. An instructor named Roger informs him that he has been provisionally admitted, starting today. Kanata is left speechless by the scale of the facility. Kanata marvels at the immense, gear-filled structure. Roger explains that MRDO's foundation is built on managing Meteoria coal mines and conducting research, effectively turning the entire city into one giant research facility. As they proceed, a strange, clockwork receptionist startles Kanata by offering assistance. In a mental letter to Gordon, Kanata describes the place as something out of a science fiction novel. Just then, a large aircraft descends. Roger remarks on the perfect timing as a young woman named Hillary arrives. Kanata stares in stunned silence, recognizing the beautiful girl from his trip to the city. Hillary rushes forward, exclaiming with delight that she can't believe she's finally meeting him, and tackles him in her excitement. Hillary correctly identifies Kanata as the one Arya scouted. Roger formally introduces her as Hillary Garcia, explaining she will be taking care of him. Hillary gives Kanata a warm greeting. Kanata realizes with a blush that she's the girl he saw that day. With the introduction made, Roger leaves them to it. Hillary enthusiastically announces the start of their grand tour of MRDO. Kanata, flustered, thinks to himself that Hillary is a lovely name. Noticing his tension, she gets close and tells him to relax. Kanata grows more flustered by her proximity. Hillary explains that their journey begins at the preliminary training facility. It's a 2-year institute where new researchers acquire foundational knowledge for their future career paths in either PhD studies or coal mine operations. Kanata processes the fact that he's going to attend school, a luxury he's never known before. Hillary eagerly pulls him along, promising to show him something awesome. She reveals a vast library shared with MRDO, leaving Kanata utterly astonished. Kanata is amazed to find rare books, and is even more shocked when Hillary tells him access is completely free. Overwhelmed with emotion, he reflects on how he's only ever known worn-out books. As he reverently holds one, Hillary playfully startles him, causing him to yelp. She laughs, teasing him for his reaction. Hillary explains that she's a second-year student and will be his tutor. Overwhelmed, Kanata asks for a moment to process everything. He feels like he's in a fairy tale, especially when Hillary tells him the cafeteria food is free. He takes a bite of steak and is amazed at how delicious and tender it is. It melts in his mouth. The taste is a stark contrast to the hard, smelly food he's always known, and he wishes Gordon could be there to try it with him. He flashes back to his childhood, struggling to chew a piece of tough bread. He complained to Gordon that you could hammer nails with it. Gordon had laughed, agreeing it could be useful for mining. Remembering Gordon's kindness, Kanata recalls how he suggested turning the hard bread into soup. Despite having no cooking experience, Gordon had studied recipes to make something edible for him. Lost in thought, Kanata wonders if Gordon feels lonely now. His reverie is broken when someone violently kicks his chair. The assailant is Elliot, who confirms Kanata's identity. He looks down on Kanata, remarking that he looks even shabbier than imagined. He questions how someone so pathetic could be associated with Arya. Other students whisper fearfully about Elliot, a notorious second-year student. Elliot leans in close, telling Kanata to beat it. When Kanata tries to apologize for any offense, Elliot snatches his goggles and throws them to the floor. Elliot smashes the goggles with his foot, calling them pathetic junk. He declares that Kanata is lowering morale. As his anger boils over, Kanata's expression changes, and he coldly tells Elliot to move his filthy feet. Just as the confrontation escalates, Hillary returns, worried about leaving Kanata alone. She is shocked to find him facing off against Elliot. She rushes in, demanding to know what's happening. Hillary pleads for Kanata to stop, but he ignores her. In a swift motion, he yanks the tablecloth from under the table, sending it flying. Hillary realizes with a start that the cloth is now in her way. Before anyone can react, the tablecloth whips through the air and expertly wraps around a stunned Elliot. Elliot struggles against his bonds, demanding to know what Kanata did. Kanata calmly explains that it's a special nut miners use for troublemakers, one he won't be able to break free from. Hillary watches in awe at his incredible speed. Kanata picks up his goggles, relieved they're not broken. The other students are amazed that Elliot was taken down in a single strike. Hillary is completely smitten, thinking Kanata is something special. She marvels that Arya truly has an eye for talent. She rushes over to apologize for being late. Ignoring Elliot, Hillary suggests they head to the dorm. Hillary shows Kanata to his new dorm room. He's amazed by how spacious, clean, and fresh it is. Hillary points out that it's a double room, but his roommate hasn't arrived yet. With a cheerful cry, she dives onto one of the beds. Kanata's heart races as Hillary calls his name from the bed, unsure what's happening. With a grin, she tells him that for tonight, she wants him to stay up late with her. Kanata is stunned, misinterpreting her words completely. Hillary lanes in clothes, explaining that they need to conduct an aptitude test before he can be placed in the prep dorm. Kanata is overwhelmed by her pleasant scent. She tells him it's an essential step to become a mature member, and the first step is for him to take off his clothes. Kanata is shocked by her request. A flustered Kanata hesitantly removes his shirt. Hillary is not satisfied and instructs him to remove everything, from top to bottom, until he is completely nude. Kanata lies naked on the bed, mortified that she's seeing him like this on their first day. Hillary touches his chest, commenting on his impressive muscular development. He flinches, wondering what she's going to do. Hillary then asks if he has ever kissed before. When he shyly admits he hasn't, she laughs and tells him to relax. She tells him to leave everything to her. She leans in and kisses him. Kanata is completely overwhelmed by the amazing and intense sensation. As the kiss deepens, something strange begins to happen. A small, icy creature seems to materialize from their kiss, much to Kanata's confusion. Kanata pulls back, utterly bewildered. Hillary is holding a small bottle. The cute, icy creature floats happily around them. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as a monstrous, shadowy creature with a gaping maw emerges from the same energy, its presence dark and menacing. Kanata is horrified, realizing that, as expected, there was a catch to everything. He thinks of Gordon, understanding that he learned this lesson the hard way and that no story could have prepared him for this reality. The creature's shadowy tendrils lash out, wrapping around Kanata's body. He realizes there are some things you can't truly understand until you've experienced them firsthand. Trapped and bound, Kanata feels his strength draining away. The creature tightens its grip, pulling him into darkness. A voice calls out to him, and Kanata awakens. Hillary is by his side, relieved he's okay. She reassures him that the aptitude test went well. Confused, he asks what happened, and she explains she moved him while he was unconscious, asking if he can look around now. Kanata looks up to see a shocking sight, rows of giant tubes containing horrifying monsters preserved in fluid. Kanata is shocked. Hillary explains these are known as meteorians. She says they are monsters that emerge from the depths of the earth and asks if he's encountered one before. Kanata flashes back to the monster at the mining site. Hillary calls them pests that can't be allowed to run wild. She reveals that MRDO's true objective is to secretly research and exterminate them. While the public knows of 2 energy-related departments, there is a third secret department. This secret third department, called the Meteorian Special Operations and Research Department, or Takaiken, specializes in countermeasures against the Meteorian threat. Hillary reveals that Crawford, the man who saved him, is in charge of it. She adds that Meteorians only appear in deadly mining sites where special fossil fuel is extracted. Kanata realizes that's what happened to him. Hillary explains Takaiken was established to eliminate these monsters which get in the way of coal extraction. It's a department for the elite. Kanata has been selected as a prep student due to his exceptional recommendation. He asks what kind of work the department does. With the aptitude test successfully cleared, Hillary formally congratulates him. Hillary reveals his assignment, to join Takaiken's combat unit and risk his life fighting Meteorians. The reality of his situation sinks in. In his mind, he finishes his letter to Gordon, expressing his gratitude and acknowledging this might be his last message. Hillary, however, reassures him that they are in this together. In a large courtyard, an announcer welcomes the new recruits to Takaiken and declares the immediate start of a combat aptitude exam. Kanata is visibly anxious, struggling to comprehend the rapidly unfolding situation. He flashes back to Hillary, telling him his purpose here is to fight the Meteorians, and he desperately tries to calm his racing thoughts. He remembers confronting Hillary after the monster appeared, demanding to know what was going on. Hillary excitedly explains that the event was a compatibility test to implant a companion, and he passed with flying colors. She reasons that since a normal human couldn't fight Meteorians, they had to equip him with a special power. Kanata begins to connect the dots, realizing this special power is linked to the creature from before. Hillary presents the creature in a pod, telling Kanata it is a companion that will stay with him for life, and that he must treat it well. Kanata recognizes the cute, squeaking creature as the being from earlier. Hillary explains that the pod serves as a recovery unit for his companion and must stay with him constantly. Her explanation is cut short by a sudden realization that they are late. She urgently tells Kanata they must hurry to another location for the real exam. As they rush off, a completely lost Kanata asks what she means by a real exam. Kanata forces himself to calm down, trying to process the fragmented information and assess the situation. Drawing on his past, he reaffirms his ability to adapt to any hardship. He concludes that to become a Tokaikan fighter, he must pass this test. An instructor informs the gathered candidates that they will be fighting Meteorians and each must defeat one to pass. An instructor bellows that examiners will grade their performance and anyone failing to meet the passing score is out. Kanata is shocked to learn they are being thrown into actual combat immediately. The instructor reveals that the examiners are their senpai, the successful candidates from the previous year. Kanata is floored to see Hillary among the examiners, who gives him a playful wink. Kanata realizes with a shock that Hillary must have passed this same exam last year, questioning if she can really fight. The instructor then announces that they are joined by a very special guest this year. She introduces their esteemed commander, Crawford, who makes a dramatic entrance. The crowd of examinees goes wild upon seeing the commander. Kanata, unfamiliar with the name, is baffled by the sudden excitement. The other students are starstruck, exclaiming that the legend is standing right before them. They wonder why the highest-ranking member of Tokaikan is attending a rookie exam. A nearby student explains that Arya holds the record for the most Meteorian eliminations in history. Kanata stares at the commander on stage, a sense of vague familiarity nagging at him. As Arya lights a cigarette, Kanata's memory clicks into place. He realizes with a start that Arya is the man from that time, and suddenly everything makes a terrifying kind of sense. The announcer's voice booms, confirming that Commander Arya Crawford is the youngest person in history to achieve the highest rank in Tokaikan. Arya's reputation precedes him. He is known as a prodigy in combat research and the best in all of MRDO. A fervent admirer next to Kanata declares that Commander Crawford is the very reason he wants to join Tokaikan. Kanata is shocked, realizing he had no idea he was scouted by such a significant figure. The admirer proclaims that he will get top scores on this exam, which determines division placement, so he can join the Crawford division. His passionate declaration is cut short when a girl crushes a pair of optical equipment with her bare hands. The intense young woman crushes the device and states with cold confidence that first place is hers. The other candidates recognize her as Ebai Muller and seem to lose hope. Kanata once again is left completely in the dark. He feels utterly clueless, wondering if he's the only one who doesn't understand anything that's happening. The boy who was just shouting his ambitions is now sweating and muttering that he wants to go home. The boy who had been loud earlier apologizes profusely to the girl who silenced him, while Kanata looks on, concerned. Kanata reflects on the diverse and strange group of people taking this exam, some of whom are already hoping for its cancellation. An instructor calls for their attention, announcing that it's time to introduce the Meteorian they will be fighting today. As a large curtain is pulled aside, the candidates brace themselves. Kanata watches in stunned anticipation. A massive, terrifying Meteorian is unveiled, its grotesque form shocking all the candidates into silence. Kanata screams in disbelief, asking what the hell these creatures are. The instructor announces that the time limit for the exam is 3 hours. She adds a grim warning: they will receive no assistance and participants die in this exam every year. Kanata is horrified, realizing nobody told him the test was a life-or-death battle. The instructor then commands all participants to unleash their special powers. All at once, the other candidates unleash their powers, transforming into powerful warriors. Kanata is left standing alone, confused and unchanged. The other transformed candidates, including Ebai Muller, look at Kanata with contempt, wondering why he's just standing there. An official shouts from the sidelines, demanding that he activate his special power. As another official warns of disqualification, Hillary frantically asks for a timeout. Hillary quickly appears by his side, apologizing and promising to teach him how to release his power immediately. Hillary tells him to look at the companion she gave him earlier. She instructs him to focus on it and simply think the word connect in his mind. Kanata panics, shouting that he doesn't understand what's happening anymore. Hillary insists he doesn't need to understand, just to trust her and do as she says. She urges him to close his eyes and just try to connect with his companion. Though bewildered, Kanata closes his eyes and attempts to connect. As Kanata attempts to connect, he has a vision of his companion transforming into a powerful, icy creature. The creature from his vision appears before him in the real world. Completely disoriented, Kanata wonders if he is dreaming all of this. The creature's enormous maw opens wide, ready to devour him. It lunges forward, seemingly swallowing him whole. An incredible explosion of ice erupts from Kanata, a torrent of uncontrolled power. The force of the blast is so immense it sends the other transformed candidates flying. Kanata stands amidst the swirling ice, stunned by the power he's unleashed. Hillary shouts in alarm, telling Kanata that this is bad and he needs to control it. His companion warns him not to let it overwhelm him, but Kanata has no idea how to regain control. One of the instructors observes that at this rate, the kid is going to fail. Commander Arya, however, calmly tells the chief instructor to have some patience. A voice yells for him to wake up as his consciousness fades. Kanata comes to, finding Elliot looking down on him, derisively asking how long he was going to sleep after causing so much chaos. He sits up, dazed and with a bloody nose, wondering what just happened. While an instructor asks if he's out, Elliot smirks and apologizes for the exam being halted. Elliot introduces himself as the examiner grading him today, reminding Kanata that they met in the cafeteria. Kanata is horrified to realize his examiner is the cafeteria bully. Elliot then states that he has a message from Arya-san. With a cruel grin, he delivers the message: if Kanata fails to pass this exam, he will die. Kanata is left speechless by the grim ultimatum. Elliot explains that Arya called him to MRDO to become a combat operative and gave him a rushed Meteoria parasitic implant. When Kanata questions the word implant, Elliot reminds him of how his companion went berserk earlier. He reveals that the pod contains a classified biological weapon. Elliot states plainly that returning to civilian life after receiving an implant is absolutely not allowed. The weight of his words sinks in, and Kanata's eyes widen in horror. He explains that while other students might be reassigned if they fail, Kanata is different. If he doesn't become a fighter, he will be terminated as an inconvenient existence. Kanata looks up at Arya, who sits observing the proceedings. Arya thinks to himself, challenging the minor boy to show him his potential. Kanata looks on, the pressure mounting. The instructor announces the resumption of the exam and orders the release of the Meteorians. Kanata gets to his feet, facing the terrifying Meteorian once more. Elliot smirks, mockingly telling the peasant to do his best to stay alive. Elliot cruelly informs Kanata that even if he survives, he will be marked with a 0 and failed. Kanata's mind screams at the absolute unfairness of it all. He clenches his fist, knowing he must struggle and do something, no matter how hard it is. He flashes back to his impoverished childhood, lamenting how the poor are always kept in the dark. He recalls how books and knowledge were his only salvation, his only means of survival. He looks up at the monster, feeling completely powerless in what feels like a cruel, unfair world. Despair and determination mix in his eyes. Just as the Meteorian is about to strike Kanata, Ebai Muller intervenes, destroying the creature with a single explosive punch. Ebai casually kicks away the remains of the obliterated monster. Elliot watches in utter shock. The other instructors are equally stunned by her performance. She turns to Kanata and coldly tells him that he's in the way and should leave if he isn't going to fight. The proctors are amazed, clocking her time at 60 seconds flat, a new record. A spectator recognizes her as Ebai, the daughter of Viscount Muller, from a prestigious line of royal knights. Kanata, covered in the monster's remains, can only stare as the name Ebai Muller is called out. With her victory confirmed, Ebai Muller officially passes the exam. The instructors are shocked by Ebai's record-breaking passing time. Arya Crawford watches the unfolding scene with a calm, detached demeanor. One confident candidate scoffs at the perceived weakness of this year's monsters. Ebai Muller remains unfazed, splattered with the gore of her defeated foe. The confident examinee charges forward, certain of an easy victory. Urging his companion into the attack. His companion shatters upon impact, leaving him stunned. Other examinees watch in confusion as his attack fails. Arya Crawford smirks, dismissing the fallen candidate as trash. The Meteorian's sharp appendage pierces through the examinee's back. The other candidates, including Kanata, can only watch in stunned silence as the brutal reality of the exam sinks in. The Meteorian lifts the impaled examinee into the air, his body gushing blood. Kanata is horrified as another candidate is violently attacked. Another candidate finds her attacks are useless against the Meteorian's fully armored shell. The other examinees realize that people truly die in this exam every year. Panic erupts among the candidates as the carnage continues. Overwhelmed by fear, Kanata's hands tremble. He turns and flees down the corridor. Elliot calls him pathetic for being the first to run away. Kanata rationalizes that fighting seriously is pointless and that Ebaimula was simply an exception. The candidates realize their melee attacks are useless and decide to keep their distance. The examinees flee into the woods, pursued by the relentless Meteorians. Medics are called for the wounded as the chaos continues. An examiner reports to Arya that the candidates have all dispersed into the woods, suggesting they wait for reports. Unfazed, Arya crushes a small, glowing object in his hand. Arya sits calmly amidst a swarm of floating eyeballs, a manifestation of his unique ability. His eyes watch the candidates as they flee. He observes every candidate scattered throughout the exam area, monitoring their desperate struggles for survival. Arya continues to watch Kanata's movements. Kanata flees through the woods, followed by one of Arya's floating eyes. He frantically tries to find cover and think of a plan. He stops in his tracks as he sees another candidate in danger. The other boy cowers in fear as a Meteorian looms over him, screaming for help. Sim is shocked to see Kanata, whom he disdainfully calls a peasant. He cries out in terror as the creature attacks. Without hesitation, Kanata shoves Sim out of the Meteorian's path, taking the full force of the blow himself. Though injured, Kanata pushes himself up. Sim rushes to his side, asking if he's all right. Kanata insists he's fine and urges they escape together. Their escape is cut short when another creature lunges at Sim, who screams in terror. The Meteorian continues its pursuit. Catching his breath, Kanata wonders why the creature stopped chasing them. Sim confronts Kanata, asking why he would save someone like him when there was nothing to gain. Kanata recalls a memory from his past as he explains his reasoning. He tells Sim that when someone once saved him, it made him happy. This simple, honest reason moves Sim to tears. He confesses that in his entire life, no one has ever helped him before. Overcome with emotion, Sim gratefully thanks Kanata and introduces himself. Kanata returns the introduction, extending his hand. Suddenly his arm begins to transform, ice crystals spreading across his skin, shocking them both. Kanata cries out as the spot where he was injured begins to freeze over. Sim panics, apologizing profusely, believing he's the cause of Kanata's injury. Sim asks what's happening, wondering if this was ever explained to Kanata. Sim looks at Kanata's ethereal companion and realizes it's attempting to repair his damaged cells. Sim is amazed, having only read about this power in books. He excitedly identifies the phenomenon as the famous cryoparasitic symbiosis, a rare healing power. His rapid-fire explanation overwhelms Kanata. Kanata tells him to lower his voice, and Sim apologizes. Realizing they're still in danger, Sim decides to survey their surroundings. His eyes begin to transform as he activates his ability. A brilliant light emanates from Sim's eyes as he activates his power. Kanata watches stunned as Sim's eyes begin to glow. After a moment, Sim relaxes, assuring Kanata there are no threats nearby. He explains to Kanata that his power works through his eyes, giving him long-range vision. Sim worries that if they get caught, his ability will be useless in combat. He dejectedly calls it a worthless ability that suits him. Kanata wonders how to properly use the power his Meteoria grants him. He is determined not to experience another uncontrolled rampage. Sim daydreams about cooler powers, like enhanced physical abilities or making fire. Kanata decides on a more practical approach. He needs to make safety preparations. Putting his plan into action, Kanata begins constructing elaborate traps from vines and rocks. Sim watches in astonishment, wondering what Kanata is doing. He is amazed that Kanata is able to do so much with just one hand. In a short time, Kanata has prepared a series of formidable defenses. Sim is in awe of the instantly made traps. He wonders just who Kanata-kun truly is. Kanata reflects that his rough working conditions as a miner are finally paying off, recalling lessons about using his feet when his hands were unavailable. Unseen by them, Elliot observes their actions, noting Kanata's use of guerrilla tactics to compensate for his combat disadvantage. She seems unimpressed, deciding she needs to teach them a lesson. Just then, Sim asks Kanata how he can get better at controlling his power. Eager to repay Kanata, Sim offers to teach him how to control his power. Before he can, Elliot appears and violently kicks him away from Kanata. She orders the examinees to stay apart. She sternly reminds them that this is a test of individual capabilities and that teamwork is strictly forbidden. Elliot informs them that they are both on the verge of disqualification. Sim panics, recognizing her as Elliot-senpai and apologizing profusely. To protect Kanata, Sim takes all the blame for his injury and their teamwork. He pushes Kanata away and flees, sincerely wishing him good luck on the rest of the exam. Kanata watches in disbelief as Sim runs off. Elliot smirks, telling Kanata that cleverness is useless without combat ability and that his situation is hopeless. With a final, crushing remark, she tells him that MRDO is not for people like him and that he never had a chance. Victorious cries echo across the field as Negaro Gardner defeats a Meteorian, passing the exam. Toa Galoria also celebrates his victory, having passed the exam. Zulu Marlon successfully passes the exam. Stella Rockwell is also announced as having passed. The survivors discuss their tactics, agreeing that the creature's belly was its only vulnerability. An examiner instructs those who have passed to move on. Two examiners comment that it seems to be a promising year, with some candidates quickly figuring out the basic strategy. Arya thinks to himself that this is not what he is looking for. He lets out a sigh of disappointment, lamenting that no one has grasped the true purpose of the test. Elliot notes that there is only 1 hour left in the exam. She believes Kanata is going to fail if he does not start to act. Kanata has been still for about an hour, trying to figure out what to do. Elliot grows frustrated, thinking his pathetic display would cause anyone to fail him. By taking his time to observe, Kanata has noticed something important. He notes that for some reason, the creatures always keep their tails buried, only taking them out briefly before rushing to bury them again. Even during combat, their tails remain firmly in the ground. As a Meteorian rushes past, Kanata is certain there must be a reason for this. Kanata stands over the deep hole where the creature's tail was buried. He tastes a sample of the soil, confirming it is just ordinary dirt with no residue. Watching from a distance, Elliot is disgusted and confused by his actions. Using a trap he set up beforehand, Kanata has managed to get a Meteorian stuck in a hole. He recalls that in his first encounter, a physical attack with a boulder worked. He prepares to drop another large rock on the creature to test if the method is repeatable. He drops the massive boulder onto the trapped Meteorian. However, the creature curls up, and the attack is completely deflected. Kanata realizes that outside attacks won't work. He concludes that the creature possesses a tough outer shell. He has a sudden realization about the creature's interior. He recalls that animals like turtles, crabs, and pill bugs have soft bellies and curl up to protect them. He deduces that the Meteorian's belly must be vulnerable, which is why it curls up for defense. With no time left, he prepares for a decisive move. He steels himself, knowing this is his last chance. He decides to aim for its stomach segments the moment it crawls up and exposes its underside. He is horrified to see that his attack left no mark at all. The creature retaliates, slamming its head into Kanata and sending him flying. Kanata is thrown back by the powerful strike. He realizes with despair that he can't match up to the creature, as even its weak point is too much for him. He notices his wounded area is freezing over again. He understands that the ice is only stopping the bleeding and not actually healing the wound. He laments his inability to control this power. Deciding not to rely on uncertain hopes, he resolves to focus on the present situation. He steels himself, knowing he has to think of a practical way to win with his current strength. He dodges another powerful swing from the Meteorian. The creature lands another blow, knocking the wind out of him. The Meteorian looms over him, leaving him no room to escape. His mind races as he desperately tries to find a solution. He believes there has to be a true weak point. His mind flashes back to the creature's strange habit of keeping its tail buried. They keep doing it even when threatened, so there must be a reason. He had initially thought they were feeding, but creatures do not typically eat during combat. He rules out communication via vibrations, as sound alone is enough to get their attention. After testing multiple theories, he is left with only one possibility. The final theory is breathing. He compares them to mammals like dolphins, which must replenish oxygen after diving. He theorizes that the creatures are the opposite, needing to absorb something from the ground to survive. He realizes that as living things, they must breathe. Suddenly it all makes sense. This has to be the explanation for how they breathe, given their sealed exterior. He compares it to arthropods, which have holes called spiracles to connect their outer shell to their internal organs. He knows the creature's body is full of soft and vulnerable internal organs. Since its back and belly are impenetrable, he must find another way to target its internal organs. The only passage from the hard shell to the delicate organs must be through its breathing tail. That is its true weakness. Elliot watches, noting that there are only 5 minutes left. She prepares to watch him fail, thinking it's too bad he keeps his tail underground. Kanata believes his new trap should work. He positions himself to lure the Meteorian into his net trap. He yells, ready to spring his trap. He triggers the trap, intending to force the creature's defensive instincts. Elliot is shocked that he is still fighting. Arya, however, understands Kanata's strategy. Kanata will strike in the momentary opening before it completes its defensive form. As the creature curls up, its tail emerges from the ground, giving him a single chance while it is defenseless. He knows he only has a few seconds to land a perfectly aimed attack. He knows it is now or never. He knows that if he misses this strike, he will most likely die. A painful memory of being sold by his parents flashes through his mind. Kanata reflects that life is brutal. He remembers the canary in the coal mine, a warning of toxic gas. A mentor's voice reminds him that being slow to react can be fatal. He learned that in harsh environments, one must adapt to survive. He recalls warning a fellow miner about an unstable area, having noticed signs of a previous collapse. After the cave went down, his good catch saved everyone, and he was told to always trust his best judgment. Now he runs to protect those important to him. He is determined to climb up from rock bottom. He remembers meeting Stella and her warm greeting. He resolves not to let anything else be taken from him and thrusts his weapon forward. His weapon plunges into the creature's tail. His power surges through his arm as the attack connects. Arya leaps to his feet, a wide grin on his face as he realizes what is happening. Elliot watches in stunned silence. Kanata feels the power surging as ice crackles around his arm. The icy energy flows directly into the Meteorian's weak point. The creature is frozen solid and shatters into pieces. Kanata stands victorious, declaring this to be his adaptation. A young man, Kanata, stands before the grand, gear-filled facade of MRDO, the nation's premier steamtech city. In a letter to someone named Gordon, he reflects on how every day brings new thrills, a stark contrast to his old life in the coal mines. He recalls the congratulations he received from a girl named Stella. Adjusting his new uniform, he thinks about his current situation. His new acquaintances gush over how cool his uniform looks. The praise makes him blush. He reflects on passing a life-threatening entrance exam to become a preparatory student at this secret research organization. Stella playfully shoves her companion, Elliot, expressing her disbelief that they're in the same seminar, while Elliot angrily dismisses her. Their professor, Crawford, enters the room. He welcomes them to the Crawford seminar, announcing he will be their special professor for the next 2 years. The Crawford seminar is a special small group class with elite researchers as guests. Stella excitedly tells Kanata that it is the most difficult seminar to get into. She marvels that he managed to pass, calling him truly special. Another student, Ebai Muller, tries to get the professor's attention, but Arya tells her to address him as Arya and asks her to wait. Ebai Muller furiously confronts Kanata, demanding to know how he got first place over her, a result she absolutely cannot accept. Other students agree with her. Even Kanata admits he's curious. She points out that she passed the exam instantly, while he was the last one to return. Professor Arya steps in, offering to explain. Arya explains that Kanata's ability to formulate hypotheses was the highest among them. He points out that all the other students, especially Ebai, made a mistake. They all used brute force against the Meteorian, completely destroying its important core in the process. A flashback shows Kanata's confusion during the exam as a glowing orb, a core, emerged from the defeated enemy. Arya clarifies that the core is like a Meteorian's heart. While calling it a weak spot is technically correct, there's more to it. Arya continues, revealing that the core is also an important reusable resource. When weakened and parasitically implanted into a human body, it allows them to borrow the Meteorian's abilities, which is how they fight at Tokaikan. Kanata is stunned, realizing the device he holds contains that very Meteorian core. Arya emphasizes that MRDO's purpose is research, which often requires capturing specimens alive or retrieving cores. When raw power isn't the right approach, he asks Ebai how she would fight. Elliot Garcia confidently interjects that he would use his head. Arya agrees, stating they must use their smarts while they fight. Arya elaborates that when encountering the unknown without a strategy, humans often resort to brute force. However, he explains, those with accumulated knowledge can make bold insights and form hypotheses. The exam was also a test of their crucial ability to derive solutions, a key trait for researchers. Arya declares that Kanata excelled naturally without guidance, which is why he passed with unanimous top marks. The praise deeply affects Kanata, who remembers being told by minors that reading books was useless for him. Stella is overjoyed for Kanata, believing he must have worked incredibly hard through difficult times. The other students are stunned by the extent of Arya's praise. Ebai seems to reconsider, acknowledging they are researchers who fight and will face unprecedented unknowns. Arya concludes the lesson, urging them all to first develop their ability to form hypotheses by studying hard and having fun. Overwhelmed with emotion, Kanata wonders if MRDO is truly a place where he can be acknowledged. Just then an emergency is announced, and Arya is called away, ending the session. Stella yells at Elliot to knock it off. She calls him pathetic, which makes her ashamed to call him family. Kanata is bewildered by their intense argument. He cautiously asks about their relationship. Stella, with tears in her eyes, reveals that Elliot is her twin brother. The revelation sends a shockwave through Kanata. Kanata attempts to show respect to Elliot as Stella's brother, but Elliot violently rejects the notion. As Ebai mutters that she wants to go home, Stella apologizes to Kanata for her hopeless brother. Kanata reassures her, saying his time in the mines has accustomed him to all sorts of people, a mature response that impresses Stella. As the first day of introductions concludes, the students thank each other and head back. Stella playfully approaches Kanata and asks if he is going to invite her to his room today, leaving him completely flustered. Stella bursts into laughter at the flustered Kanata. She teases him, clarifying that he can't bring girls into the dorm anyway. She waves a cheerful goodbye. A blushing Kanata is left speechless. He enters his room alone. Exhausted by the day's events, he collapses onto his bed. As Kanata falls onto the bed, he is startled to find it already occupied, and they both scream in shock. Kanata shouts Sim's name in surprise. Sim recognizes Kanata as well. Sim is overjoyed, exclaiming that he can't believe they both passed and are now roommates. He's excited they both got into the special research dorm. He profusely apologizes for running away during the exam. He offers Kanata candy as a peace offering. Sim asks Kanata how he ended up there, having heard he was from the mines. Kanata explains he was scouted, which surprises Sim. Kanata enjoys the candy. Sim is happy to see him happy. Sim then asks why Kanata joined MRDO. Lying back, Kanata explains that he's here to restore his family's status. He elaborates that MRDO is an organization for the privileged class, with only a few geniuses getting in otherwise. Kanata elaborates that for fallen noble families like his, getting into the preparatory program is a ruthless admissions war. His family went deep into debt for it, and the pressure is immense. Kanata notes that it's an exclusive, closed society. He is surprised, having expected it to be a more progressive place. Sim talks about MRDO's responsibility for new energy and technological innovation, making what seemed like science fiction a reality. He takes great pride in being part of the heart of the nation's development. Kanata admits he got excited about that aspect too. He understands that the prestige, power, and salary offered here are the best path to restoring his family's status. Kanata reflects on the burdens of nobility. Sim then shares his personal reason for joining. He wants to know more about Meteorians. He excitedly mentions that he's been researching them out of curiosity. He heard that through MRDO he can learn more about them. He then casually drops a bombshell. It's crazy that Meteorians are the raw material for Meteoria coal. The statement catches Kanata completely off guard. Kanata sits up abruptly. He demands to know what Sim just said about Meteorians and coal. Sim, confused by the intense reaction, explains that Meteorian corpses and their eggs fossilize in the ground to become Meteoria coal. He illustrates the process, from core to Meteorian to coal, believing it to be common knowledge. The truth hits Kanata like a physical blow. He had no idea. He realizes this is a truth known only by the elect. It was intentionally hidden from commoners, with strict orders not to leak information. They were ordered to dig, never given a chance to wonder what they were unearthing. The prosperity brought by STEAM technology is built on a foundation everyone accepts without thought. Staring out the window at the sprawling, energy-guzzling city, Kanata is left with profound questions. What exactly are they burning to produce all this incredible energy? What exactly are meteorians? Elsewhere, Arya receives a report that everything is proceeding smoothly. He acknowledges the report satisfied. Arya's colleagues express concern, questioning if choosing Kanata was the right move, especially concerning the extremely important Meteoria Zero. Arya, however, is unworried. He states that Kanata's adaptation rate is faster than expected and that they must succeed this time. He reminds them that carelessness is forbidden in all things. He states that as they are aware, great power comes with great sacrifice. A grim fact is revealed: every person previously implanted with Absolute Zero has died within 6 months. If the host's body fails to adapt, death is inevitable, but Arya, watching from afar, has faith. He believes that if it is Kanata, he can make it. First-year special equipment research trainees gather outside a large industrial complex for their mine orientation. The trainees understand that it is their purpose to research special equipment for the extermination of Meteorians. Kanata listens as the instructor explains that the Meteoria mines scattered across the country will be their main battlefields. The instructor identifies their location as the abandoned Nova mine, once one of the most prominent in the country. Their mission is to navigate the countless branching tunnels of the Nova coal mine. Some of the trainees seem to believe the task of exploring an abandoned mine will be easy. However, the instructor clarifies that they must each capture a creature living in the mine, a Meteorian called a camper. The thought of catching a live Meteorian leaves Kanata speechless. The trainees are informed they can work together and will be given basic equipment for the task. The instructor warns them of the dangers within the mine and sends the trainees on their way. A nervous Sim asks Kanata if they can travel together, and Kanata readily agrees. Another trainee who had been calling out to Kanata is shocked that Sim has already partnered up with him. A young man named Jog and a woman named B approach, with Jog expressing relief that his friend found a partner. Sim's friend stammers out the names of the newcomers, Jog and B. Jog eagerly asks his friend to introduce him to Kanata. He gushes to Kanata about how amazing Jog is, revealing his nickname is Flash. B pieces things together and asks Kanata if he's the special scholarship student from the mining town. The revelation causes a stir among the other trainees, who are shocked a scholarship student was accepted into the Crawford seminar. Jog laughs, remarking that strange things really do happen. Kanata recalls seeing Jog's showy display at a past festival and questions how he made it into the elite program. The other trainees voice their skepticism, doubting Kanata earned his place since they all worked so hard. Confused by the sudden attention, Kanata wonders why everyone is staring at him. Seeing the hostility, Sim remembers past instances of Kanata being bullied and asks if it's happening again. Sim feels responsible, believing that now Kanata is being targeted because of him. Frozen with fear, Sim worries what will happen if Kanata is challenged to prove his skills. Jog challenges Kanata to prove his abilities by creating ice right then and there. Kanata realizes with dread that this is a bad situation. He recalls his fruitless attempts to use his ice power after the exam. For some reason, it just wouldn't appear. Jog cruelly tells Kanata that if he can't perform, he'll be considered as worthless as Sim. Just then, an instructor orders everyone to move out, interrupting the tense standoff. Annoyed by the interruption, Jog gives Kanata a parting threat. As Jog and B walk away, Sim apologizes to Kanata for what happened. Sim explains that he knows Jog and B from his hometown, and that they've always been like that. He reveals that Jog's Meteoria gives him powerful control over lightning, and Kanata tells him it's fine. Kanata checks on Sim, who says he has calmed down after the earlier incident. Just as Sim expresses his worry about falling behind, a camper appears right before them. The camper immediately flees, prompting Kanata and Sim to give chase. The creature is incredibly quick, and the boys struggle to keep up. They lose sight of it, and Kanata expresses his frustration at their luck. Sim concentrates, activating his force field release ability to locate their target. He succeeds, spotting the camper high above them on a metal structure. Kanata realizes they must catch the agile creature in one attempt or it will escape again. While Sim frets about what to do, Kanata rapidly calculates the distance to their target. He asks to borrow Sim's rope. Kanata quickly combines their ropes, confident that the new length will be sufficient. To Sim's surprise, Kanata expertly hurls the makeshift lasso towards the camper. The rope perfectly wraps around the surprised camper. With their target secured in the cage, they joyfully declare their capture mission complete. Sim is amazed by Kanata's incredible lasso skill. Kanata presents the captured camper to a surprised Sim. He explains that the catch was only possible because of Sim's vision, so the credit is his. Overwhelmed by Kanata's generosity, Sim thanks him profusely. The pair continue on their path, with Sim eagerly following Kanata's lead. Kanata offers to teach Sim a trick for safely navigating mines. He warns Sim to be cautious of tunnels that narrow unexpectedly. Meanwhile, Bee gets stuck in one such tunnel, struggling to free herself. Kanata explains that the surface of the rock is like a bladed hook, making it a one-way trap. Once you're stuck, there's no escape. He grimly adds that a trapped person could be eaten alive by a beast. He warns that many tunnels like this exist as natural traps. Elsewhere, two other trainees complain about the tight passage their target has led them into. One of them, Stella, pauses as she notices her shoelace is untied. Her companion calls out in alarm as Stella suddenly collapses. Moments later, her friend collapses as well. Kanata explains that heavy gases can pool around one's feet, becoming dangerous when one lowers their stance. Another group of trainees is shocked to find they've returned to the same place. They don't understand how they got lost, as they had marked their path with string. The trainees, beset by various dangers, realize that navigating a mine is a serious challenge. At a fork in the path, Kanata confidently declares the left path to be the safer one. When Sim asks how he can tell, Kanata explains it's because there is airflow. He elaborates that most mining accidents occur in sealed-off areas. With proper ventilation and by avoiding unfamiliar things, there's nothing to be scared of. Sim marvels at Kanata's knowledge, wondering what kind of life he must have lived to know so much. He concludes that Kanata must have had a much tougher life than he could ever imagine. And yet, despite all that, Sim wonders how Kanata can still be so kind to others. Kanata gets his attention, and Sim looks up to see an awe-inspiring sight. They have found their way to a beautiful, sparkling underground cavern. They arrive at a vast underground lake with a rickety minecart track stretching across it. Kanata determines they'll have to ride the cart to proceed. As Kanata prepares the cart, Sim nervously asks what he is doing. Sim is horrified by the idea, pointing out that the cart looks like it's falling apart. Ignoring his friend's frantic protests, Kanata leaps into the cart and sends them hurtling down the tracks. The dilapidated cart careens down a steep incline as Kanata tells Sim to hold on tight. Sim is terrified, feeling like his heart is about to jump out of his chest. Bee shouts at Sim to keep going. Sim screams Kanata's name as he watches him fly through the air. The jolt sends Kanata flying over the broken track. In a stunning display of agility, Kanata snatches the second camper from midair. He lands perfectly on the track and runs to catch up with the cart, triumphantly announcing that they now have both creatures. Exhilarated, Kanata declares that all that's left is to reach the goal. Sim, though amazed, thinks his friend is completely nuts. They finally reach the end of the minecart line. Kanata notices the two caged campers are making a fuss. He observes that they grow agitated when near each other before suddenly falling silent. Kanata realizes the campers only get agitated when close together. Sim wonders if they just don't get along. Kanata speculates they might both be males. He compares their behavior to certain fish that will fight to the death if two males are placed in the same tank. Their discussion is cut short by a sudden noise. Jog and Bee appear, having finally caught up, and cheerfully thank them for the wild tour. Jog taunts Kanata, saying he knew following the reckless boy would make things easy. Bee calls Jog the worst, and he flirts back that it is why she likes him. They laugh about how insane the minecart ride was and how tough it made the chase. Kanata asks Sim what to do since they don't have campers of their own. Sim nervously asks Kanata for help, mentioning he senses two of the creatures nearby. Kanata and Sim look on in horror as Jog and Bee reveal their true intentions. Since the goal is close, Jog dismisses them, declaring their job done. He gloats that their things are now his, recalling all the precious items he's taken from others in the past. Bee aggressively demands they hand everything over, revealing they are nothing more than bullies. Resigned, Sim hands his captured camper over to the pair. Kanata watches in stunned silence. Jog laughs, feigning guilt over taking it. Jog and B mockingly praise Sim for being so kind, calling him their best friend. A dejected Sim apologizes to Kanata. With their prize secured, the two bullies turn and flee. Kanata stares after them in disbelief. As they run, Jog derisively calls Sim Flash, not for his speed, but because he abandons his teammates and runs away. B agrees, calling him a pathetic coward and declaring her intent to take everything from him. Hearing this, Kanata's expression hardens with anger. Enraged, Kanata lunges forward and snatches the second camper from B, shouting that they don't get to say those things. Jog is surprised by Kanata's sudden defiance. He demands they return Sim's camper. A struggle breaks out between the three of them. Kanata is sent tumbling, losing his grip on both cages. Freed from their cages, the two campers let out a deafening shriek as they get close. Kanata realizes in horror that the two creatures have gotten too close. The piercing sound forces everyone to their knees in pain. The two small creatures begin to gruesomely fuse together into a monstrous new form. The entire group stares in stunned silence as the grotesque transformation continues. Kanata is frozen with shock. The newly formed creature lashes out, attacking Jog and B. A massive, terrifying monster now looms over them all. As the others look on in terror, Jog points a shaking finger at Kanata, screaming that this is all his fault and demanding he take responsibility. Someone